Well, good morning. I'm here in the Rainbow Garden in the morning sun, and I'm right beside me is the bearded iris patch that the gardening club cleaned up last Thursday, and looks just the way it's supposed to. We decided to take off all the leaves since those are going to have to come off anyway, and what you do see some of the new growth that's just starting to grow. It's important that we do take these up and divide them now, because the rhizomes themselves are sitting in the hot sun, and the sun can actually damage those rhizomes if it goes on for weeks and weeks. Normally they're protected by the shade of the leaves above them, and we're getting ready to dig them up, and I want to show you how that works. It's really pretty simple. And I want you to see that I've gotten the ground nice and wet. I was out here this morning and gave these a good soak, knowing that I was going to pull some out to show you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to be digging up this small patch over here on the side, and we'll leave the big patch for when the gardening club is all here. And when I divide bearded iris, I like to find a place where there is no bearded iris to get started. So I'm going to start my first digging just to the side of the bearded iris, because I don't want to cut any of them in half by mistake. I want to make those cuts carefully later. I want to dig them up and get as big a pieces out as I can, and I want to try to get them out with as much root on them as I can. So I'm going to come here with my flat shovel into my nice wet dirt, and I'm just going to rock that back, and that's going to loosen up my first bearded iris. I'll get down, start pulling them out, and I'm going to do it gently to try to keep as much of that root as I can. And I'll just set that piece off to the side, and now I can come in again, and I know I'm not going to be hurting any rhizomes here, and I'm just going to do the same thing again. Oh, and now a big clump is coming up. And I'll take that a little bit at a time. I can shake off a little bit of that dirt. Keep setting those off to the side. Oh, boy, that's heavy. You can hear the rhizomes breaking a little bit, but that's okay. They're going to have to break a little bit to get them out. Now we're going to cut them up carefully in just a little while. Here's this big batch of rhizomes that are all together and connected, and they're partly connected by the dirt, and they're also attached to each other. And we're going to go ahead and divide these now into little pieces, and this is kind of the fun part. Notice that I'm not wearing any gloves, because like I said last week, bearded iris are nice and soft on your hands. And all I'm really going to do here is I'm going to try to protect their roots, and I'm going to try to just bust them off and gently pull them apart. And that can be a plant. I'm kind of looking for pieces that have some leaf on them. So when I'm pulling a piece off, I'm hoping that it already has some leaves, because that's where the new growth is going to come. And some are going to be bigger and some are smaller, and that's just fine. Think that one's too small? It's not too small, and you could buy one like that in the store. Okay, now when you're breaking these apart, you might find it's a little bit harder than for me because your hands aren't quite as strong as mine. But I promise, if you just keep working at it, you keep rocking them back and forth, you will be able to bust these up just like me. And if you look over here, you can see that when you break them apart, how many you get. You can just get a lot, and when we put those back in the ground, those are going to each one is going to grow and become a big plant all of its own. Okay, I'm going to take out a little bit of this old root, but I want to save the dirt. And it's perfectly good dirt, nice and dark black, has good tilth. And I'm just going to put that in the bucket, and we'll save that. Maybe we'll add a little bit of compost to that before we put it back where we found it. Probably a good idea to clean up the dirt before we do another one. Now, when you're dividing the bearded iris, your hands are going to get dirty, and you're going to feel that dirt on there. And for some of you, you're going to want to get them clean right away. We're going to wash up when we're all done, right before we have our snack. Don't worry about that. So here are a couple of those rhizomes that I just divided out, and here's that little one that I saved. And behind me, what you're seeing is a lot of bearded iris that I divided a couple months ago during the summer. I had a little patch of bearded iris that was underneath some roses, and they didn't really look that good because when the blooms would come up, they would push up against the roses, and I just didn't like where they were. So I pulled them all out and I put them in these 1-gallon pots, and in just a couple of months, they've grown all these new leaves. These old leaves that are flat, those are the leaves I cut off, and these are the new leaves that have grown since then. This is just a little baby one that I didn't throw away during the summer. I could have. It was probably no bigger than this. But if you do plant this little one, it'll be that big, and within a year, it'll be as big as any of the ones you see behind me. So that's what we're going to be doing this week in the Rainbow Garden. We're going to be digging up all these rhizomes, kind of breaking them up into the right size pieces, and then we're going to store them away and get ready to plant them the following week. We'll be planting them in 1-gallon pots and also right back into the ground.